All right, so here we go. So today we're talking about 2.4, the percent equation, which is similar to the percent proportion, similar problems. And again, for some of you, it's going to be an easier way. So let me give you an example. Again, don't write this down, just kind of watch, and I want to show you how the percent equation comes about. So what we've been talking about the last couple of days, and again, you don't have to write this down, is part over whole is equal to percent over 100, right? Now, if you don't want to set up a proportion, what you could do instead, and let me write this as, instead of percent, let's use n, okay? Percent is n, right? What you could do is this. Let's first start by dividing n divided by 100. So that's basically what I like to call decimal percent. So like instead of 55%, it's 0.55, right? So you could say that this is 0.n, right? You move the decimal two places, right? So you have 0.n, so decimal percentage. Now, what that does is that changes our, now it's just P over W is equal to the decimal percentage. It's like you already divided by 100. And then the next thing you can do is you can multiply by W on both sides, and you equal our new equation, which is part is equal to the decimal percent times W. Now, you might think, Mr. Lang, that's really confusing. Actually, this is what we did at the very beginning, chapter of lesson 1, right? If I said, what is, again, don't write this down yet, 80% of 5, what you did is you said, well, I'm going to change this to a decimal, 0.8. I'm going to multiply that times 5, and I'm going to get the part. Oh, yeah, right? It's just multiplying, which is what we did in lesson 1. Okay? So you do that, and you get P is equal to 4. Or you could have said this, right? You could have said, well, that's 80 over 100 is equal to P over 5. Cross multiply and solve, right? Same thing. So you'll get the answer the same way either way. So this is an example of how to use the equation, and this in the red is what we did all of yesterday. But they both get you to the same answer. Okay. So some of you are going to like this equation because it's a little bit faster. Right. So let's write down the percent equation. Okay. All right. So here we go. Let's write it down. The percent equation is this. Part. So there's the percent equation. Part is equal to percent times whole, or P is equal to N times W. Go and write that down. Now, what's tricky about this one is you have to make sure you change your percentage to a decimal. But what's good about this is you don't have to set up a whole proportion and cross multiply and divide. So it's actually could be a lot faster for some of you guys who like to go faster. Okay. All right. So let's start with an example here. What if you were missing the part? And the question is, what is 6% of 200? All right, so here we go. P is equal to N times W. All right, so just like yesterday or the day before, okay, this is what you need to do. You need to identify each part. So first of all, we know this is the percentage, right? So this is the N. And then of 200, so just like yesterday, okay, of 200 is the whole. So what I'm missing is the part, right? I said missing part, yeah? So here we go. Now here's what's tricky. You need to write this is the really important part. You need to write it as a decimal. So 6% is not 6, it's not 0.6, it's 0.06. And I'm going to use these parentheses for multiplication. You see where I got there? Okay, and now you just go ahead and put it in your calculator. P is equal to 12. Yeah. Got it? Does that make sense? It depends. So when you're missing the part, all you have to do is multiply. Because technically you already did the division. The division is when you change 6% to 0.06. That's technically dividing by 100. So you already did the division by doing that. Okay. So let's do a different example. So missing part's easy because, again, all you're doing is going to multiply. And that's why some people like this, because it's actually really quick. But again, the really key part here is changing the percentage into a decimal. If you don't do that, you're going to get 1200, and that's going to be too big. Okay? All right, let's try a different one. Let's see what happens when we're missing the whole. All right. So here we go. 13 is 26% of what number? This one's a little bit tricky. So I'll do it with you. So you can do it with me. Okay. All right. So again, here's our equation. P is equal to N times W. All right. So first thing I see is percentage. So this is our N. Okay. Is 13, is that our part or is that our whole? Okay.
Part.
It's our part. Thank you, right? Part, right? So that's our part, and we're missing the whole here, okay? All right, so let's plug it in. Here we go. So I have 13. Now remember, write this as a decimal. Okay, so now this is interesting, okay? This is how we have to solve equations. Remember, when we did proportions, right, whatever number is next to the variable, you divide. So this is the one step that's a little bit different. We're going to divide, okay, by 0.26, right? Whatever number is next to the variable, you divide by, okay? You don't have to write this down, but remember, for example, if you have 3x equals 9, you divide by 3 on both sides to get rid of that 3, right? If I had 12 equals 2y, right? I divide by 2 on both sides to get rid of the 2. Same thing here. I want the w by itself, so I'm going to divide (0.26) on both sides. And I'm left with w is equal to, so in your calculator, do 13 divided by 0.26. Go ahead and do that. 13 divided by 0.26. Yep, and you get 50. All right. Now, some of you are like, Mr. Lamb, but this is harder. This seems more confusing. Once you get the hang of it, it's actually faster, in my opinion. This is actually what I would do normally because, like, for example, if I want to see something proportional and I'm out and about, I don't have a piece of scratch paper that I can set up a proportion. Instead, I just want to do things in my calculator. And this one makes it a little bit easier to just do things in your calculator. Now, on your homework, you have to at least show how you set it up. Some people keep asking me, how do I show work? You show work by at least setting up the equation and showing how to divide. So this is great because there's usually only one step. When you do proportions, okay, so if I did the same question as a proportion, again, you don't have to write this down. If I was to do the same exact question as a proportion, this is what it would look like. Okay, I would say, okay, well, 26 over 100 is equal to 13 over W. And then guess what? This is what I do. Watch. 26 times W is equal to 1,300. And then I would divide by 26. And I'm going to get the same exact answer. So on your homework, you could do it either way, whichever way makes more sense to you. Some people like this method, the new method, because it's a little bit faster. Okay, and then some people like the old method just because it's more familiar and you also know it. Okay. I had a question here. If you now make sure the answer, you can also get 59 times 0.26. You cannot do 59 times 0.26. That doesn't work. Okay, let's try another one. We'll get the hang of it.
So, I mean, like, if you not make sure your answer, you get 50 times of 13.
You cannot just multiply 50 times point. Oh, sorry. Yes. If you multiply 50 times 0.26, you should get 13. It should all work. All right, let's try another one just to get a hang of it. Okay, let's try this one. 70% of what number is 24.5? And if you're really confused and you just want to use the old method, that's fine. But I think some of you can handle this new method that's a little bit faster, a little bit cleaner. All right, let's go ahead and try this one. Give it a shot. See if you can set it up right. Go ahead and try and put in the chat if you think you got it, and I can see if people are getting this one. Mm-hmm. I've got one correct answer in there. Yep. All right. Looks good. Okay. Yeah, so this is what we got to do, right? We say 24.5 is equal to 0.7 times W, right? And then you just divide by 0.7. W equals 35? Yeah. Does anyone like this method better? Anyone? Than proportion? Okay. It's okay. Usually every year I get maybe a half and half or so. Okay. Okay. Now there's one more thing that we can be missing, and that's missing percent. Okay. 21 is what percent of 40? All right. This one actually ends up being, this one's a little bit tricky. Okay, this one's a little bit tricky because the answer you get, you're going to have to move the decimal back. Okay, so let's try one here. Okay, so for this one, check it out. We know that this is our P right here, 21 is. We know this is our W here. So let's just set it up. Let's put it in. 21 is equal to N times 40. Now, I know it looks a little funny with the number on the next to the variable on the other side, but remember, 40N and N40 are the same thing. So I'm still going to divide by 40 on both sides here. Now you're going to get a decimal. You're going to get 0.525 if you plug that in. So it's not 0.525%. You just need to move the decimal over. Okay, now you got to move the decimal over. So if you get this right here, 0.525, you're on the right track. You got to move the decimal over 2 spaces to the right to get your percentage. So I need to do this. I need to move my decimal 1, 2 to get 52.5%. So some people like this method because they think it's a lot simpler. You just have to either multiply. It's all one step, right? Either multiply or you divide. There's a little bit of the decimal moving, and that's what confuses people. So if you were to do this in what we've been doing the last couple of days, you would have done it like this instead. You would have said, okay, well, 21 over 40, part over whole, is equal to N over 100. 40N is equal to 2100. Notice, look, see on both, we divide by 40 on both methods. That's why they're the same. You're dividing by the same thing, essentially. Okay. Okay. So you get the same thing either way, right? So I want to emphasize that both ways are correct. Now, we're not going to go too in depth on this new way because if you don't understand it, I don't want to confuse you. So you're like, oh, you already confused me, Mr. Leong, right? But they're both the same. So if you don't like what I just taught you, then you can use the proportion method, and it still works. Even on tonight's homework, okay, it's only the odd questions on the left. You can use it. But if you like this new method, you're like, ooh, this is quick. This is